Le programme suivant contient des opinions très haineuses d'un certain commissionnaire de baseball, un grave de baseball, et le dévrance de la direction d'une équipe, et des grossiers qui ne conviennent certainement pas à tous les téléspectateurs. La discrétion du téléspectateur est conseillée. The following program contains some very hatred opinions of a certain commissioner of baseball, a baseball strike, and the indifference of a team's management, and some profanity, which is definitely not suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. You've got Jeff Diamond, you've got one man, you've got a hat, a bat, and that's definitely not all. You got the bleachers, got it from spring to fall, you got a dog, a drink, and that umpire's call. What do you want? Let's play what if. Okay. Okay, Cutter, do some what ifs. Okay, Cutter, do some what ifs. Please note that my French is not the pronunciation is not the best, but I have vowed to do this in English and French as best as possible to be diversified because it is the Montreal Canadiens Expos season. Anyway, hey there, Heather, ho there, c'est Jeff Cutter Diamond qui vous accueille dans cette édition très spéciale de Cutter What If MLB Edition. Welcoming you to this very special edition of Cutter What If MLB Edition. Ce soir, nous penchons sur le célèbre équipe des Expos qui n'a pas remporté la série mondiale alors qu'elle aurait dû le faire en 1994. Tonight, we are looking at the famous Expos team that did not win the World Series when they should have in 1994. Il y a certain moments et de la haine qui se partagent. Alors, commençons par un peu d'expos. Well, d'accord? There are certain moments and hatred to go around. So let's start with some Expos history, shall we? Les Expos ont écrit en 1969 et ont servi une grande équipe de la Ligue majeure appelée les Royals qui ont servi de terreau aux Dodgers de Brooklyn, des époques avec des noms comme Don Newcombe, Jackie Robinson, et même à un moment donné, Roberto Clemente. The Expos were created in 1969 and was on the heels of a great minor league team called the Royals that served as the breeding ground for the then Brooklyn Dodgers, with such names as Don Newcombe, Jackie Robinson, and even Roberto Clemente. Même si le stade n'était qu'une reconstruction d'un parc municipal affecte 11 000 sages, les Expos ont fait leur entrée dans le 12 maçons de Parc Jarry. Even though their stadium was a rehash of a city park with 11,000 seats thrown in there, the Expos made it home sweet home at Jarry Park. Les Expos ont remporté le premier match contre les Mets de New York 11-10 le 8 avril 1969. Puis, on remporte le premier match d'une série contre les Cardinals un semaine plus tard. The Expos would win their first game ever against the New York Mets 11-10 on April 8th, 1969, and then a week later would win their first home game against the Cardinals. Bien que les Expos ont été classés 52 et 110, ils ont été accueillis chaleureusement par tout le Canada, mais les difficultés de croissance ont persisté et en 1977, l'équipe a pu manger à Stade olympique de Versailles des Jeux olympiques 1976. Although the Expos were 52 and 110, they were greeted warmly by all of Canada. Growing pains persisted, and by 1977, the team moved into Olympic Stadium home to the 1976 Olympics. Bien que Carvenu, il a été le domicile des Expos pendant de nombreuses années et les Expos sont améliorés en 1979, ils entraient en possession de remporter la division, mais ont perdu contre les Pirates. Although it was cavernous by standards, it was the home of the Expos for many years, and the Expos got to be better. By 1979, they were in position to win the division, but lost to the Pirates. L'année suivante, ils sont allés au dernier week-end à l'égalité avec les Phillies et devront gagner 2 des 3 matchs pour remporter le titre de l'Est de Ligue nationale. Mais Mike Schmidt a lancé un chapeau l'air de Boulogne et marqué un home run de 2 points pour couler les Expos le samedi. The next year, they would go to the last weekend tied with the Phillies and needed to win 2 out of 3 to claim the NL East title. But Mike Schmidt let the air of the balloon by scoring a 2-run home run to sink the Expos on the Saturday. Malgré tout cela, les Expos ont participé aux séries éliminées de la Ligue nationale en 1981. Bien que de manière controversée, elles ressentent une saison difficile en raison de la grève de mai-saison. Despite all that, the Expos did go to the 1981 NL playoffs, although controversially on the backs of a split season due to the mid-season strike. Les Expos ont battu Steve Carlton 2 fois en LDS et sont rentrés au Stade olympique pour essayer de vaincre les Dodgers en LES. Et pour en finir le Blue Monday, où Rick Monday a frappé une balle pour de parc le 9e match de le dernier match et ruiné la saison des Expos. The Expos did beat Steve Carlton twice in the LDS and went home to Olympic Stadium to take out the Dodgers in the LCS. However, Blue Monday came, and Rick Monday hit a ball out of the park in the 9th inning of the last game and ruined the Expos season. Ils se sont retrouvés à difficult jusqu'en 1992, où ils ont pris la 2e place de la Ligue nationale derrière Pittsburgh. They find themselves slipping badly until 1982 when they took second place in the NL East behind Pittsburgh. En 1993, ils sont rappelés du titre de division, mais ils ont manqué de temps pour la chance de Phillies. In 1983, they was closer to the division title, but they ran out of time chasing the Phils. En 1994, ils ont joué de toute le cours et ont presque obtenu une position de séries éliminaires. Alors, la putain de grève devant se produire. Canada est privé une 3e participation consécutive aux séries mondiales et se demande une 3e credit consécutive aux séries mondiales au nord de la frontière. 1994 saw them play their hearts out and nearly get into playoff position. Then the fucking strike had to happen. Canada was robbed of a 3rd straight World Series appearance and certainly a 3rd straight World Series crown going north for the border. Millions on Chatafan Cans n'a pas bien commencé. Carlos Cesson a dû commencer à le 20 avril et les Expos, en raison de l'absence de preuves de la série éliminée, ont affronté de nombreux jeux pour joindre les 2 buts. Ken Hill, Marky Grissom et John Letland ont échangé contre des inconnus et Larry Walker est parti pour le Colorado en tant qu'agent libre. Ces 2 de les 4 avant des hâtes et saigné. Les Expos se seraient bien comportés. Mais non, la politique stupide à de gauche, tout et ça commencé avec l'homme au sommet brasilique. A-t-il essayé de sauver les Expos? Je ne pense pas. Croyez-moi, je le déteste. 1995 did not start well as the season had to start April 20th, 1995, and the Expos, due to no profits from the playoffs, had to sell off many players to make ends meet. Ken Hill, Marcus Grissom, and John Wetland were traded for nobodies, as it seemed, and Larry Walker left for Colorado as a free agent. If 1 or maybe 2 of those 4 had signed, the Expos would have been fine. But no, stupid fucking politics had to ruin it, and that starts with the man at the top, Bud Selig. Did he try to save the Expos? I don't think so. Trust me, I hate his effing guts. Les Expos ont glissé au classement et pension qui seront de court avec le propriétaire de Geoffrey Laurier. Mais non, les fans se sont fait voler et Laurier a fait jurer les Expos pour qu'ils deviennent propriétaires de les Marlins et que la Ligue majeure de baseball prenait le contrôle de l'équipe et les signe presque sous contrat. Si ce n'était pas pour le Minnesota qui a bloqué ce mouvement, les Expos ont été cuits. The Expos would slide down the standings and thought they would be okay with Jeffrey Loria becoming the owner. But no, the fans got fucking robbed, and Loria parlayed the Expos into owning the Marlins and having Major League Baseball take over the team and almost contract them. If not for Minnesota blocking that move, the Expos were toast. Nous savons tout comment Lester s'est terminé. Les Expos ont été envoyés à Washington de 2005 et ils ont commencé leur vie sous le nom de Nuts. Passons maintenant l'équipe de 1994 qui aurait de tout gagner. We all know how the story ended. The Expos were sent to Washington in 2005 and they began life as the Nats. Now, let's talk about the story of the 1984 team that should have won it all. All right, so the 94 Expo season was the 26th La Fenicium saison de la franchise. They had the best record in true baseball. 74 victoires, 40 défaites. 74 wins, 40 losses. When the baseball strike ended the season and the team's aspirations. From June 1st forward, Montreal actually were 46 and 18. So can you imagine 28 games above 500? In turn, they produced the most successful season in franchise history in terms of winning percentage. Their 649 average, Lotto 649. If you're from Canada, you know what I'm talking about. Haha. Their 649, they would have won 105 games, 105 victoires in their full season. 105 wins. Can you imagine? That's hard to believe. Like some of the best teams ever can barely get to 108. That's 2 out of 3. 5 Expos would represent the National League at the All-Star game, and Moises Alou would be the hero of the All-Star game for the National League, getting the game-winning hit, meaning that the National League, for the first time since 1987, when another Expo, Tim Raines, was the hero, that the National League finally won the All-Star Classic. The offseason was big. I mean, the Expos lost John Vanderwall to the Colorado Rockies. Vanderwall would become a masterful pinch hitter, 25 pinch hits. The Expos would trade a player to be named later for Randy Milligan from Cleveland. So it was Brian Barnes, if you must know. So anyway, yeah, they went to West Palm Beach and all that. But one of the biggest thing was this whole offseason trade on le 19 Novembre 1993, the 19th of November 1993, when Delano Shields, a second baseman, deuxième but, got traded by the Expos to the Dodgers, like Dodgers de Los Angeles, for Pedro Martinez, un lanceur, starting pitcher. A lot of people were worried. Montreal fans were upset because the Shields was a very good second baseman, and they thought he would be the future. I mean, they had Mike Lansing up in the system, but the Shields was basically good, and Montreal was close to winning the division in 1993, losing out to the Phillies, those ragtags. And Pedro Martinez did not really start off life as a major leaguer that well, so Tommy Lasorda was worried because Pedro could not put any meat on his bones, so to speak. And everyone vilified the Montreal staff, the GM. But when Pedro started pitching well and had a perfect game going to the eighth inning in their home opener against the Reds, people forgot about that, forgave Expos management and saying that, hey, we may have fleeced Los Angeles, which they did. The Shields was not really that great for Los Angeles. And they ended up picking up Jody Reed on a contract too. Pedro had 4 great years for the Expos. The opening day starters were Moises Alou, left fielder, who was picked up from Pittsburgh in a 1990 trade. Sean Barry, a good third baseman when he had to be. Will Cordero at shortstop. Darren Fletcher, the catcher, who was a good catcher for Philly, and then went to Montreal. Cliff Floyd, this prospect coming out of 93, doing quite well. Marcus Grissom in center field, who knew how to play center field that well. Mike Lansing at second base, Pedro, and even the great Larry Walker in right field. You know, the Expos did draft Larry Walker and develop Larry Walker. One of his first games was that famous 1989 game in which the game went to 22 innings. So Pedro on April 13th, 1984, took a perfect game through 7 1/3 innings against the Reds, but he threw a brushback pitch at Reggie Sanders, which saw Sanders charge the mound. The Expos did win the game 3-2, but Pedro did not get a decision. Larry Walker was on the highlight reels for all the right reasons April 24th against the Dodgers when he was playing in front of a Sunday night crowd. He caught a Mike Piazza fly ball and handed it to a 6-year-old, Sebastian Napier, thinking it was the third out of the inning. But Jose Offerman was running at full speed. Walker held Offerman in the third base. So, anyway, Tim Wallach would actually hit a home run. Anyway, Walker did give little Sebastian a signed ball, and they got a standing ovation. However, Walker was suspended 4 games for inciting a bench-clearing brawl against Pittsburgh. However, after June 1st, well, the first few months they were not doing that well, but June 1st, they actually were dominant, 46-18, 46 victoires, 18 Purdue. And then that damn player strike ended on August 11th. They were on pace for 106 wins, which is no small feat. They had an ensemble. Pedro, they had Larry Walker, Moises Alou, Cliff Floyd, Mike Lansing, and Jeff Facero. The Expos actually scored 5 runs a game and gave up fewer than 4 by August 12th when the strike happened. The Expos actually finished the strike shortened season with the best ERA in Major League Baseball, much less the National League, with 3.56, 46 saves, and just 280 walks. And Atlanta was supposed to be the best team around. Walker was aiming for 100 RBIs. He had 86. Ken Hill was on pace for 23, and Pedro was on pace to strike out way more than 200 batters. Moises Alou was so close to getting 200 hits for the first time in his career. The team was drawing decently at home, 24,000 per game, although Olympic Stadium was more cavernous. Everyone thought that the Expos would have their first 2 million fan home attendance since 1983, but the player strike ruined it and all that. Montreal lost many of its players due to free agency and salary constraints, and the team never recovered. And all that. So yeah, they were decent in May. April 13 and 10, May 15 and 12, June 19 and 8, July 18 and 8, and August they were 9 and 2. So they were dominant. They were even more dominant on the road than at home, especially in June. 10 of their 19 wins were on the road, but they were only 12. They were 10 and 2 on the road, whereas they were 9 and 6 at Stade Olympique. So yeah, so they had the Mets would have been coming to Stade Olympique for that weekend when the series will strike out. The Rockies were coming to town, and Larry Walker was going to come into town for Larry Walker's future team would have came for the first time. Then they would have went to the Astrodome, to Houston, then to Mile High Stadium, not Coors Field as you all think. Mile High Stadium did host the first few seasons of the Rockies baseball. Then they would have hosted the Astros and Cubs. Then the Reds would have come to town. Then they would have went to Chicago, Cincy, and New York. The Pirates, the Phillies were coming to town. The Cardinals, the Marlins, and those pesky Braves would have finished the season off 3 games. Montreal was ahead of the Braves by 6. They were the tops in the National League and Major League Baseball for that matter. They were first. Cincy was leading the NL Central with 66 wins, and the LA Dodgers were only 2 games above 500, but that was good enough to lead their division. The Braves were 2.5 up on Houston for the wild card. There was no freaking way Atlanta would have, not been the wild card team, even if the Astros were good. Everyone else was below 500. Of course, I did the video on the 1994 Texas Rangers when they were 10 games below 500. And I mentioned that every AL East and Central team was better than the Texas Rangers. By comparison, only Colorado, Florida, the Cubs, and San Diego would have been were worse than Texas. Well, of course, and every other team in the AL West. But still, look at the fact. The Mets put the Braves, the Astros, put the Giants in the American League West instead of the NL West, they would have won. Simple as that. So yeah, Montreal would have faced Atlanta in the playoffs, but the rules were certain. Yeah, the top team would face the wildcard team. Unfortunately, because the Expos and Braves were in the same division, it would have been the Braves would have faced the Reds, and the Dodgers would face the Expos. So Pedro's former team would have to come face Montreal, and the Braves would face Cincy. That's the rule. Record against opponents: they struggled against Cincy and Colorado, going 2-4 each. 7-2 against the Marlins. 9-3 against the Dodgers, very good. They were a perfect 12-0 against San Diego, 8-2 against Pittsburgh, and 7-3 against St. Louis. Um, Here's the roster. They had Danny Boucher, who was picked up by Colorado in the expansion draft, and then the Expos made some trade with Colorado to get Danny Boucher for Quebecois star power. Jeff Facero, great lefty at one time, was on that team. Gil Heredia, decent player. Ken Hill, who they picked up from St. Louis a few years earlier, was starting to come into his own. Pedro Martinez, who wore 37 for a while and then switched to 45. Start of his great dominance and all that. He was a nobody before 94. Mel Rojas, a very good reliever who would become a good closer, but he wasn't the closer for that team. Kurt Reeder, a serviceable player. Jeff Shaw, a serviceable player. John Wetland, who the Expos fleeced from Los Angeles by way of Cincy, he was their closer. Darren Fletcher at catcher. Lenny Webster and Tim Spear backing him up. Infielders Sean Barry, Will Cordero, Cliff Floyd, Mike Lansing, and Randy Milligan. Outfielders Moises Alou, Marcus Grissom, Larry Walker, and Rondell White. So Fletcher was the main catcher. Floyd at first, Lansing at second, Barry at third, Cordero at short, Grissom in center, Moises in left, and Walker in right field. Pitching wise, Ken Hill 16-5. Pedro was 11-5, not half bad. Facero 86, Breeder 7-3. They let other people pitch. John Wetland was the closer with 25 saves. They had 5 guys in the All-Star game: Moises Alou, Will Cordero, Darren Fletcher, Marcus Grissom, and Ken Hill. And that's practically what we got. So we're taking a look at the 94 playoffs and see what would happen. So, of course, the 1994 playoffs did not exist, of course. So now comes the hard part. Who would be the starting pitchers? Who would be the starting hitters? Well, here are the Dodgers and Expos. So the Expos would host the Dodgers. As I said, the Braves could not face the Expos because they were both in the same division, and the wild card winner and the top team in the league cannot face each other. It's akin to 1995 when the Yankees were the wild card team and Boston were the best team in the AL. Wait, how did they if the Yankees were the wild card team, how did they not face Cleveland? They faced Cleveland and not the Bo Sox. Kind of weird. Nevertheless, so the Dodgers would face the Expos, and Delano the Shields would be playing second base and try to get revenge on those pesky Expos. So let's see what the first play is. Of course, I'm going to try to be as French as I can, but of course, I have fumbled. All right. So the Dodgers actually gagné 5-0, 5-0 over the Expos. Piazza singles scored the Shields, of all people, and Tim Wallach, another former Expo, with a sac fly, scored Brett Butler. 2-0 Dodgers. And then it would be 4-0 on Piazza's single score Ramon Martinez. DH, I don't need those stinking DH. And Brett Butler, 4-0. And Expos would not get a hit till the bottom of the ninth when Rondell White hits a double off Ramon Martinez. And it was like, what the hell? The Montreal Expos didn't get a hit till the ninth inning. Well, Walker makes a mistake on a ball and Mondesi scores. So it was 5-0. Ken Hill went 8. Tim Scott pitched the ninth. Ramon Martinez basically outsmarted his brother. Well, he didn't pitch against his brother, but still. So the Dodgers were up 1-0. Kevin Gross comes in for game 2 against Pedro. And Montreal will win. Montreal a gagné 11-3, 11-3, getting revenge. Piazza gets a single score Butler, but the Expos would put up 6 runs in the first inning. Kevin Gross came in to pitch. Larry Walker hit us a single to score Grissom and Alou. Floyd singles to score Walker and Cordero. Pedro even comes through for a double. And again, it's the RGL Network trope. DH, I don't need no stinking DH. He scores Fletcher and Floyd, and that chases Gross, and Ishmael Valdez has to come in the pitch, trying to cut the damage. Mike Lansing had a double to score Cliff Floyd in the third. Roger McDowell, you were still around in '94? He came in to pitch. Okay. Roland Cordero single scored Walker to make it 8-1. Mike Piazza does hit a home run to make it 8-2 in the sixth, but too little too late. Fletcher single score. Cordero, is that Tom Worrell or Tim Worrell? I know there's two T Worrells. Todd Worrell, the former Cardinals closer in 1985, came in to pitch. And Mike Lansing single scored Berry, make it 10-2. Sean Berry hits a fielder's choice to score Grissom. Mondesi hits a single to score DeShields after Tim Scott comes in to pitch. Unfortunately for the Dodgers, lose 11-3. Pedro goes 7 2/3. Not bad, 10 strikeouts. Tim Scott finishes off the rest of the day. The Dodgers pitching, Groves only goes 2/3. Ishmael Valdez an inning and 2/3. Roger McDowell an inning 2/3. Darren Dreifort an inning a third. Todd Worrell an inning. Jim Gott, former Blue Jay, went 2/3 of an inning. And Rafael Borgneal. Hang on, wasn't he a position player? He was. They let him pitch? Okay. So they head to Chavez Ravine, aka Dodger Stadium. Passero would pitch game 3 against Oral Hershiser. Because why wouldn't you have Oral Hershiser? And because this is the LDS, we'll just go with a 3-man rotation. Game 3 sees the Expos Gagne Cat 10-4 against the 94 Dodgers. Walker hits a single to score Grissom in the first, and then Floyd singles to score Alou and Walker, 3-0. And then the Dodgers somehow tie it in the fourth as Mondesi hits a double score Brett Butler, and Tim Wallach singles to score Pizza and Mondesi. And then in the bottom of the sixth, Mel Rojas comes in to pitch, and Mitch Webster comes in to pinch hit for Hershiser. He has a single score Tim Wallach. So Todd Worrell came in to pitch and hopefully finish it off. But in the eighth, Barry singles, Fletcher singles, Floyd strikes out. Jim Gott, the former Blue Jay, comes in to pitch. Lansing singles score Barry. Juan Bell comes in to pinch hit for Jeff Shaw and hits a single to center. Marcus Grissom hits a 2 RBI single score Fletcher and Lansing. Darren Dreifort comes in to pitch. Alou singles to score Bell. Walker singles to score Marcus. And then Cordero doubles to score Alou and Walker. And Ishmael Valdez has to come in to pitch. Dreifort getting that infinite ERA. 10-4, and that was all. Hershiser went 6, but everything fell apart. Todd Worrell lost the game. Jim Gott and Darren Dreifort both having the infinite ERA, meaning that they didn't get one out. Ishmael Valdez got an inning, 2/3 of great relief. Pitching wise, Facero, 5 innings. Rojas, an inning, a third. Shaw got the win. Tim Scott finished the game off with 2 innings of spotless relief. So it's 2-1. Back to the top of the order. Hill versus Ramon. Can Montreal win in 4? The answer is no. LA wins 7-6. And I think, what was it? It was 2-3. So games 5 has to be in LA. But I'm going to change it and go to Montreal. Call it national bias, whatever you want to call it. Tim Wallach singles score to Shields. Mondesi hits a 2-run home run to make it 3-0. Ramon gets a single to score Henry Rodriguez. The former, the future Expo Henry Rodriguez. I forgot about that. Ramon gets it. As we say, DH, I don't need no stinking DH. Nevertheless, Grissom home run in the top of the fifth, but Mondesi counters with a home run of his own. Floyd does hit a triple to make it 5-2. Lansing walks. Lenny Webster comes in to pinch hit and hits a double to score Floyd and Lansing. And then Moises Alou hits a 2-run home run, and then that means Todd Worrell pitch 6-5. DeShields singles score Offerman in the bottom of the sixth. Carroll's after Shaw comes into the game. Singles score Mondesi 7-6. Jim Gott comes in to save the day. Grissom strikes out. Alou walks. Walker strikes out. Cordero's out. Ramon Martinez goes 5 2/3, no decision. Todd Worrell 2 1/3, a fantastic pitching, and Jim Gott also did well. He picks up the save. Ken Hill went 5. He was not the loser. Mel Rojas was. Jeff Shaw and Tim Scott there. So we go back to Montreal, the Belle Provence, as Pedro must face off against Kevin Gross. And game 5 sees that happen. I spent all this time hyping up the 1994 Montreal Expos, and sim matchup gives me the Dodgers winning in Game 5, ruining the Montreal Expos season. Excuse me for a sec. Bleep, 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 mother, bleep it, bleep it, bleep it, tabernacle, bleep, 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 bleep. Guess there's no happy endings. I'm sorry, Montreal. I thought for giving you Game 5 against the Dodgers on home field, it would be national pride. I wonder what would have happened if I went the other direction. Wow, they would have given it to Montreal if I went the other direction. But unfortunately, because I've set it in stone, I can't retract. Because everyone else, all the fans of the 29 other teams are going to be like, "Oh, come on, you did it for them. Do you want to give us a second chance?" No. So that's it. Ay, ay, ay. Well, anyway, thanks for watching, and thanks for putting up with my French. I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu. Fuck.